This is a preview of what we're making this week. What's in the box? This week in Flower Club, we've got beautiful freesias, iris, Misty. This week in Flower Club, your colour combination might vary a little bit. Freesias come in a beautiful rainbow of different colours, and this week I seem to have received 2 different colours in the one bunch, which is quite unusual, but I've got white and yellow. I've also got iris in like this gorgeous electric blue purple colour. And my Misty today is white. So you might have white, you might have purple, you might have pink. First, we're just going to rehydrate our stems by cutting the elastics and plastics. Alrighty. Cool, so today we'll be designing into our trusty white ceramic vase. If you've got that handy, perfect. If you've got another vase that you love and is a favourite of yours at home, then by all means design into that. What I find works best with us at Fig and Bloom is using a vase with an opening of about 10 to 15 centimetres, 15 centimetres max. I wouldn't really go much more than that because you'll find your design just kind of like flops out to the side. You may have heard that we've started a Fig and Bloom Flower Club Facebook group, which is a great way for everyone to share their designs, tips and tricks. I saw one coming through recently that had a doily and they placed their stems through the doily so their stems stayed in position. That was such a genius idea. I've never seen that before. Feel free to add your tips and tricks into the Facebook group because it's always nice to see how flower clubbers design their flowers and give inspiration for the next person. In the Flower Club Facebook group as well, we can add a link for this white ceramic vase. It's our trusty white ceramic vase that we love. And also things like snips, flower strippers, etc., things like that, because those items are actually at a special members price, which you guys have special access to that price. Not everyone has access to that. So the best way to find the link to how to purchase those is in the Facebook group. So jump in there. So first we're going to start with our Misty. It's such a gorgeous flower, lots and lots of texture here. And my particular Misty is white. And so it's really giving foliage vibes rather than floral vibes. However, it definitely is a flower, but today we're going to use it as the framing floral for our design. And I'm just going to fill the back of the vase with this Misty. So just make sure you trim off all your daggy little stems because remember, all of these daggy bits do carry bacteria, and the more bacteria that ends up in the water will kill the flowers. So you want your flowers to last as long as possible. So just prepping all your stems is the best way to go. Another little pro tip is always cutting your stems on an angle. So here you can see that one's just come straight from the growers and that's kind of got a bit of a hacked edge on it. So we want to always trim it on an angle, just like that. And the reason why is that when it sits in the vase, you've always got a little bit of the stem able to drink the water. So if you cut it on a straight, like 90-degree angle, it may sit flat against the vase and then the bottom of the stem wouldn't be able to drink any water from the bottom of the vase because the bottom of the vase is kind of like covering its mouth, so to speak, if you think of that as its mouth. And if you cut it on an angle, it's always got the ability to drink water and hydrate. Okie dokie. So we've got a nice big cluster of our textural Misty. I might come back and add more to it later. We'll just see how things are progressing. All right, next I'm going to pop our iris. So in order to prep the stems for our iris, I'm going to, of course, trim on an angle. And also just trim away any green foliage that we don't need. And you may be able to see, obviously they're super, super fresh. It's amazing. And a lot of dirt is stuck in between the folds of the greenery of the foliage. So just be mindful. What I tend to do is have a vase of water I dunk it in the vase of water and just give it a swish around and get rid of that dirt. It's like literally brown dirt. Give it a fresh trim, and we'll make sure that what we're putting into the vase, you can sort of see it's dripping onto the table, really dirty and brown. This is just a vase of water, and I'm just giving it a bit of a swish, and that's just going to clean off at the end of the stem. It's kind of like taking the layers off spring onions. We do. Lucky last. And the position I'm going to place them in is towards the right. And some of them have a little bit of an unusual kind of like end to their stem. I'm going to chop that down to size and just on an angle so it looks a little bit more, it's a little bit more subtle. I'm just going to trim it so it's a little bit close to the major stem. So just like that. As you can see, the way I'm positioning all of the flowers is when one flower finishes, another flower starts. So this iris will bloom open quite big, and when the bottom of that flower finishes, this one will start. So it will be nice, like a really nice cluster, but it won't be as if each flower is competing with the other one. The flowers will be tiered so they're not in front of one another. What I'm doing as well is I'm just leaving a little bit of space between each of the iris to allow for them to open, because when they do open, the flower head's actually quite big. So I'm leaving a little bit of space between each one to give them that room to open. Alrighty, so I'm really happy with how that's coming along. The position of the iris is looking really lovely. The only thing I might change actually is that the Misty has moved slightly, so I'm just going to add a little bit more Misty in the back here. This particular iris that we're using today is a Dutch iris. There's 300 different species of iris, and this one is sort of a cut flower favorite. Another common iris that you may have heard of is the bearded iris. They are absolutely beautiful as well. Great, so that's looking really lovely. We've got our iris sort of tending to lean towards the right-hand side of the design. So giving it a little bit of that asymmetry coming into the design. And then our Misty really kind of giving that full, beautiful texture and a little bit of a colour pop depending on what you've got. I've got the white, so it's kind of throwing a little bit of foliage vibes. And now it's time for the freesias. All right, so our freesias today, as I mentioned, I've got a little bit of a mixed bag with the whites and the yellows. Freesias are typically scented and they've got a really beautiful, it's a subtle fragrance but really beautiful. I'm just going to trim the little daggy bits off, really give that a clean stem. So most of the stem is just free of all sort of daggy foliage. Give it a fresh cut, particularly on an angle, don't forget. And then the position that I'm going for is towards the left of the vase. I'm going to sort of fill in this left of the vase and into the center front. I might start with my whites first. I'm quite particular when it comes to color, and me personally, I'm very, very picky when it comes to yellows. So I am going to just maybe leave those out for a moment. I might use that as a highlight. The thing that I'm really mindful of is the iris that we're using today has a yellow center, and so with the freesia and if you've got yellow in your bunch, that might look really beautiful because it will pick up on the yellow in the Misty, the yellow center in the iris, and then the sort of center front yellow in the freesia. So that might actually look amazing. Some of the freesias have already popped open for me, and I'm sure when you receive them as well. So this one here has already popped open, but some of it's petals are a little bit bruised and sort of not sitting in the correct location. So I'm just going to pick that one off. Of course, working with Mother Nature, that's, you know, you obviously get that a lot. So I'm not going to put that in the vase as it is. I just plucked that out and just making sure that the freesias that I put in the vase are actually perfect. I'm using all of the stems that already have flowers bloomed. You can see this one has also lost all of its petals and it's only got the stamen just remaining. So I'm just going to pluck that out. You can sort of see that the freesias have quite an interesting shape to them. They're quite straight in the stem and then just wild in the direction that they end up going in. So it might sort of skew left, it might skew right, it might go sort of more straight up and down like this one. So just take your time to figure out the best placement of each stem, because you don't want the stems to kind of just be in the center of the vase, just looking like a dog's breakfast. If it's on the right side of the vase, have them curl to the right. If it's on the left side of the vase, have them curl to the left. And if it's in the middle, maybe choose one like this that is more straight. So I've got a few freesias left over. I'm just going to put the lucky last one in, trailing towards the left-hand side there. So I've got a really nice kind of design going with freesias on the left, freesias on the right, some freesias in the middle. Lucky last, I think I will use this yellow one. And I'm going to cut him right down to size, making it fairly short, right in the center front there, because remembering these freesias have a very long vase life. So if you're changing your water, if they're not in direct sunlight, please don't put your flowers in direct sunlight. If you're changing the water, not in direct sunlight, if it's not like super toasty and warm in the house, if it's just kind of like a moderate temperature, they should last more than a week. And with these, it will last, they'll certainly last long enough for the iris to open. And what I want is for the iris and the little bit of yellow in the iris to bounce off the gorgeous yellow of the freesia. If your freesias arrive and they're super, super, super tight in bud like this one is, just peel back some of the outer petals and have a look inside to show what color it might be. And I can see this one, it's definitely a yellow. So what I'm going to do is just finishing touch. I'm going to pop that in there and I'm pushing back my stems with my thumb and creating a little bit of space for that extra yellow stem just to sit into position. So again, I've got my freesia spanning to the left, spanning to the right, and then in the center there. Okay, alrighty. So here we go, we've just got that gorgeous pop of yellow through the center. I'm going to create a nice little vase arrangement for my bedside table and hope that my 1-year-old doesn't throw it on the ground like he likes to do with the leftover freesias, and hopefully they're really beautiful and fragrant. Now, in order to just finish off this design, I'm going to add just a little bit of the Misty to the center front. And that's just going to bring that texture from the back. It's just going to finish the design story. So there we go, just bringing that little bit of Misty through to the sides, and then just a little pop through the center front. I'm just getting a couple of stems in my hand. I'm going to trim them all to the same size and then thread them through together. And the cluster that you do in the center front, the job to be done is really just hiding the stems of the freesias with the Misty. Yep, so that's hiding the stems of the freesias with the Misty there, so that's perfect. And I'm going to add a little bit more Misty on this side just to finish it off. Gorgeous. Okay, it's coming along really nicely, nearly done. All right, so just adding those finishing touches. I've got my little bit more Misty coming through the sides on both sides, a little bit of Misty through the center to hide the stems of the freesias. And then again, I've got my freesias cascading down onto the right side, down into the left side, and bursting through the center, they will continue to open. And then the iris are looking, to be fair, they're looking a little bit bland, just little tight buds at the moment, but give them a couple of days through to a week. They're going to be absolutely stunning. And then even this Misty is actually going to open up a little bit more, and I can see there is some teeny tiny yellow buds as well. So a tiny element of yellow is just really going to make this vase arrangement pop as the days go on and as the week progresses. I also wanted to show you how to change your vase water in a really super simple, super easy way that might encourage you guys to change your vase water a little bit more regularly. So what I tend to do, because we're doing front-facing arrangements, this is a nice easy way to do it. We can still do it if you're doing a 360 arrangement with flowers in the back as well. Super easy. Just carry your vase over to the sink. Let's imagine that this is my sink here. And then I just tip out the water just like that from the back. Make sure all the water drains through. Let's pretend this is the tap. And then your tap is just filling up from the back here. And then once you're happy with where the water is, I would just flush it out once just to get all that sort of like residual dirt and debris from the bottom of the vase as much as you can, tipping it out through the back here, and then just fill it to wherever you want to fill it to. I would say in this arrangement up to about here, so maybe just a couple of thumb widths from the top of the vase. And that's how you change your water really easily.